record, and we'll uh, call the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. I'm Jim Salio, filling in for Deborah Howe, who's not able to be here tonight. We will start with our roll call. I don't see Andrea on the Zoom. David
Here.
here. Gary
Here.
here. It's Gary. Brad's here.
Here.
John.
Here.
And then Jim. There's Jim, the blurry Jim. And Molly's is running late, so she did text me and say she's going to jump on as soon as she can. Since Deborah's not here, we don't have any chairperson's announcements. Does any council member have any announcement?
I do.
Gary.
Yeah, well, I'm working on setting up email groups, and I've got all the members in except for the members from the trees and landscape. So I need all the members of the trees and landscape and their emails. The advantage of this is you have one email that you can send to that will send to all the members. And as the members change, you can just change the group membership.
Okay, so that's Andrea's committee. John, you're on that committee, aren't you?
Yeah, and I apologize. I've been away and just got back and heard about that. And yeah, Andrea is the keeper of that record, so I'm sure she'll get it over to Gary.
Great. Any other announcements? Okay. Then we'll move into the reports. I don't see anybody from the Sheriff's Department. We do have our Highway Patrol representative here. So if you want to start your report.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I want to give you a brief report of everything that we had going on so far during, June, partially into, July, to talk about our 4th of July activity that we had. We had a crash at South Bay, just north of Los Osos Valley Road. That was just a two-vehicle crash that's sitting at the stoplight, and somebody accelerated when the light turned green, and the car in front of them didn't go either. So we call that an unsafe start. Just kind of like a rear-end crash on that. We had another crash on Don Avenue, north of is it Henrietta Street? Forgive me if I didn't pronounce that right. It was a hit and run. Vehicle was parked on the right shoulder, and subsequently comes out and sees damage to their car. Nobody left a note or didn't do their duty to required by law on that as well. I encourage everybody when this happens that we do look around for security cameras. I know some people don't want to share that with us, but it kind of helps us locate vehicles that are attributed to committing these hit and run crimes. Typically, it's been my experience over the last 19 years when people do hit and runs or usually some type of impairment, whether it be alcohol or drugs. So the sooner we can find somebody, the sooner that we can try to locate them from doing this to somebody else. And then we had a DUI crash on 13th Street south of Napomo. Vehicle hit a fire hydrant. Continued on, struck through a fence, and I guess at this location there's a large parking dirt lot, and hit about 4 or 5 more cars down there. It's very unfortunate. We were able to find the driver and take her into custody, so she'll be held for her actions on that. I did want to talk about the 4th of July enforcement that we had just here in San Luis Obispo County. As I previously mentioned, we, excuse me, we deploy 80% of our officers to work over the course of the 4 days, through the 3rd through the 6th on there. We ended up writing a total of 378 tickets, gave about 90 verbal warnings. We impounded 10 vehicles and located 6 DUIs. And that's my report that I have for the San Luis Obispo area.
And does anybody have any questions from the council on the report? Okay. Anybody from the public have any questions? All right. Hearing none. Thank you very much for doing the report. that's really sad about the drunk driver. That's caused a lot of damage, didn't it?
It does, and that's one of the messages that we try to. When people don't realize when they make that overt act to get behind the wheel and drive, and something like this happens, the amount of other people that it impacts, whether it just be the fire hydrant, but then we start crashing into people's cars, and now they have to deal with the insurance, and that's their mode of transportation, that's their money maker, it gets them from A to B, and one person's personal self decision, it does affect a lot of other people. I'm happy that we were able to locate this individual and arrest her before she can get away, and hold her accountable for her actions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to acknowledge that Andrea's has joined us. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Jim. Hey, I'm in a new location with a new computer, so I'm working on my video. Please bear with me.
Okay, well, we heard your voice, so we know it's you.
Okay, good. Yes, it's me.
So we were supposed to, Dan Heimel was supposed to be here to report out on the Basin Management Committee. I'll give him a time that hopefully he'll show up, and if not, I do have a report update on the last two meetings in July and June, but let's see if Dan shows up. So Mason, you're up with the county staff report.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Salio. Sorry, I'm having difficulties with my video as well. I'm Mason Denning, SLO County Planning and Building. I don't have anything to report on behalf of the department tonight. Thank you.
Well, that was a really quick report. This is going to be a really quick meeting. And Supervisor Gibson is not here, and I don't see Blake either, so we'll skip that. I'm not seeing anybody from the CSD. I know Ron Munns is out of town tonight. So we'll skip that.
Oh no, Chuck is here.
Yeah, you have Chuck.
Oh,
to
I'm
set up.
sorry, Chuck.
Yes.
I apologize, Chuck.
No, I do have a CSD report, and
Thank you.
Dan Heimel is, to my understanding, will not be here tonight.
Okay.
I could talk a little bit about the BMC and the meeting a little bit if you want, but
Sure.
I'll go over the CSD points right now.
Okay. Sounds good.
So the Sunnyside School acquisition, there's a project team working on a citizens ballot initiative that they want to establish a funding mechanism for Sunnyside Park, they're calling it. Been meeting weekly, and there's a lot of work going into that. The next steps include an analysis of the ongoing operation and maintenance costs and acquisition strategies, and that's still under review. This will inform the district and the community on what level of financial support is needed for the basic improvements, maintenance, and operations of the property. I mean, that's the key, is everybody, before you can make decisions, you need to know what kind of financial ask that we're going to put before the community. The district has engaged a professional polling company to further inform the citizens group and the district on the community's acceptance of approving a property tax to support the acquisition and ongoing operations and maintenance. So in the next couple of months, that'll be developed, and there'll be a poll being out there. The second town hall meeting is being organized with a tentative date set for September 14th. More information will be distributed once the date is confirmed. There's probably people on your own committee that know more than I do about all of that. The Water Resiliency Intertie Pipeline Project update. Our board approved the release of a request for proposal for the design of the Intertie Pipeline Project. This is to run over to Highway 1 and tap into the State Water Project pipeline. That is something that has been elevated, I guess, in our eyes. The recent transient model that the BMC looked at this past meeting came up with an alternatives analysis, which showed that the Intertie project and possibly denitrification of the upper aquifer at the wellheads would be the two most likely and efficient and effective projects to help with the water situation. So we put out a contract, or a request for proposals anyway, with the idea of developing a design-ready project, because shovel-ready means that grant funding is more likely to happen. So that's the goal there. We're going to be working with the other Basin Management Committee members, the water purveyors, and the county to share the cost of that effort. But the CSD is in the best place to move ahead with projects in a timely manner. And so that's one we've taken on. And I don't have any updates with the Bay Oaks well. It looks like the well that Program C well that we're trying to move pumping to the east. It'll be September now before that's online. And other than that, I can take questions.
Anybody have any questions for Chuck from the council?
Yeah, Chuck, do you have any idea of the timing of when any of these projects may actually come to fruition? Like denitrification and all of this?
Well, Golden State has a denitrification facility at their well on Rosina. They use it occasionally. We've talked about it for years. It's expensive, and there's a problem dealing with brine. All of the water treatment processes seem to come up with a brine, and if you don't have an ocean disposal, then you wind up trucking that brine, and it's expensive to do. So that's one that we're still evaluating, I guess. The Intertype project, it'll take a year for a design to be approved. We have $5 million, I believe, earmarked in an Army Corps of Engineers, call it the WRDA bill, Water Resources Development Act. But that won't be available till 2027 at the earliest, which could be timely in terms of our design and that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Chuck,
Yeah,
Go ahead, David.
Oh, okay, thanks. Can you update us a little bit more on the Basin Management Committee? I know we were supposed to, I think the intent was to get a full kind of discussion of what came out of the transient model, as well as the most recent monitoring report. And I think that was supposed to be for this month, right? But is that just postponed until next month, or is there anything more you can say about it?
We had a lively meeting at the Basin Management Committee. As you know, we've been waiting.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
Let's finish off with the CSD report, and then we'll go circle back and do the Basin Management report.
Okay.
Any other questions on the CSD report? Andrew, did you have a question?
My question was David's question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gary?
Yeah, just one comment. The second town hall is actually August 17th. It's a Sunday. It's already scheduled at the community center, 2 to 5. And I also had a question about, do we have a timeline on an estimate on the new fire tax?
Oh, goodness. Well, good. That's good news that the town hall will be sooner rather than later. August 17th, you said?
Yes.
Okay, good. At the community center.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's good news. No, the fire tax, we are still putting together all of the pieces. I expect in the next 6 months to have more information about that. The CAL FIRE contract goes up and goes up and goes up, and we've long desired to have a staffing level where we can have 4 people involved, 2 on each apparatus, so that we can handle simultaneous calls here without asking for help. We have a reserve firefighter program, which does allow that 4-0 staffing, provided we can get reserves in here, but that is not a obligatory thing. So they don't have to be here. A lot of times they're here for training until they can find a job somewhere else. And we would like to change that. It's been 20 years since we have increased the fire tax. And the interesting thing is we're still not at the level that was originally proposed. That was a big battle back in 2005. Another interesting story in Los Osos. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Any other questions from the council on the CSD report? Okay, any questions from the community? Okay, all right. Chuck, if you would, if you could fill in for Dan and kind of give us an update. We didn't get an update on the June 25th meeting or and now the July 25th meeting. So if you have information
Yes.
on those two meetings, that'd be great.
Okay. So that first meeting, we were introduced to some of the first look from results of the transient model. We've been waiting for a couple of years for this to be developed. The county was heavily engaged in pushing for it. In fact, funded this transient model, paid for a separate peer review. The BMC did one peer review, county paid for another. So in a sense, we've got double redundancy, a triple look at it. There were two things that were introduced. Actually, the second one came at the second meeting. No, the first meeting, we just got a look at the baseline scenario. That was the first. This new model allows us to add variables and look at predictable outcomes in the future. We can model different weather outcomes, different locations of wells within the groundwater basin. But that first run looked at the baseline scenario, which talks about the past 5 years of pumping levels and the location of the wells. And the conclusion was that saltwater would continue to come into the basin, which essentially means that it's not a sustainable situation. The time frame was 45 years for that model run. We would not lose any production wells in that 45 years, but saltwater would be coming closer. So that's definitely a concern. We're going to use the model in the future, very near future, to run what we hope will give us a revised sustainable yield. The baseline scenario ran at, I think it was 1,800 acre feet a year. This is what we currently pump now. Everybody in the basin, water purveyors and the people with private wells and agriculture east of town. So we know that's not sustainable. The model that we had used to have the community plan approved last year had a sustainable yield of 2,400 acre feet per year. So we're going to be well under that. We don't know what the sustainable yield will be. That will be the next task for the transient model. Each of these runs takes money. You have to have the consultants take time to run models. And so that certainly will be high on the agenda. And the other thing that we looked at was the alternatives for recycled water coming from the treatment plant, ag exchange, all those kind of things. And the only way that sending water out to agricultural use makes sense is if they take their potable water and send it back to us. Just having them stop pumping doesn't really add to the supply on this side of town. There were a lot of other alternatives looked at there, but the basic things were denitrification and the intertie project. So that's a pretty good rundown of the BMC. I think the next hot topic for the agenda will be the sustainable yield estimate, a revision of that estimated sustainable yield.
And then
Chuck? Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry, go ahead. How,
I just wanted to finish this report out. So Chuck, on the July meeting, you guys talked about doing a support letter for the Cabrillo Estates Property Owners Association.
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. That was another agenda item that we approved, support for Cabrillo in their efforts to look at joining the sewer system. There's some heavy expense with trying to maintain a septic system these days. And so they're interested. We want to support that. It gives us more reclaimed water to work with.
And then the other thing, Chuck, was on the 26th, you received an update on the Los Osos Water Recycling Fund Program. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what that is.
Well, we got a grant to study these alternatives for the use of the recycled water. And the other component was the transient model run. So that all came from the State Water Resources Control Board. And we have to wrap that up by October, I believe it is. So that's why the sustainable yield is a high issue. We want to have this model fully in use and the grant fulfilled.
Okay. So David, did you get your question answered on the transient model, or do you further question?
Yeah, so I guess the other question is, are we going to get a fuller briefing on that here is sort of one question. And I guess the other question is, does the results of the transient model, as well as the monitoring report that came out there was a little bit worse than I expected. Does any of that change the thinking on the rate of building now, or is people thinking, oh, we'll wait and get more information? Is there
have to
an
talk to the county
immediate push
about
to
land use issues? The water purveyors are putting their heads together to come up with a policy letter, I guess, that would address the way we think that we need to deal with this news. S&T has already provided some bullet points. Beth has been very good about making their position known. We're waiting for Golden State to get theirs together, and then we will have a cooperative letter that we will send to the county and the Coastal Commission that will address policy issues going forward and the way we think we need to deal with this.
And then your question, David, about whether we'll get a more in-depth briefing on the transient model, I don't know that. The recordings of the BMC meetings and notes are available at losososbmc.org. You can see the whole presentation there, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think I saw the first meeting, but not the second meeting. So yeah, I can go back and look at that.
It's worth watching.
Yeah.
Any other questions from Chuck from the council? John?
Yes, Chuck, in terms of what sort of stood out, I did watch both meetings online, and what stood out was the situation with ag and the situation with recycled water and, let's say, the additional schools and the cemetery. Why wouldn't it be prudent? Somebody said, let's go for the low-hanging fruit. And one of it would be to the cemetery, for example, pumps water for their grounds. Why not? Why does it require some sort of a pump back mechanism to simply say, why don't you take recycled water? I mean, the wastewater treatment plant is close enough to whatever. It's not very far. And we could supply them with recycled water, and it would benefit the basin in the sense that immediately as you provide that water, they would not be pumping from their well. Well, why not go for some low-hanging fruit to benefit the basin, I guess is my question. What's your view on that?
Well, the schools are in the process. The Los Osos Middle School Loams was the big one, and I think that's just about done if they're not already using the reclaimed water. Monarch is next. The schools are definitely in. The community park around the community center, they're on.
That's great.
Apparently the memorial park, and this is one that I'm trying to remember. I think this is what it was, that their well is an upper aquifer well. So it's not one that directly really affects the saltwater intrusion issue. And that was news to me. There was something recently that I remember hearing about why that 50 acre feet a year wasn't likely to be hooked up to the reclaimed water situation.
Hmm.
And I think that might have been what it was, is that their well is an upper aquifer well. It's not using from the D and E zones, which is where the saltwater intrusion is an issue.
I got you. How far does the ag uh, section of Los Osos watershed go to familiar landscape to the east? How far does it go?
Well, it's not all the way, I don't believe, to, the divide where the sign is, you're entering the estuary watershed. But the thing about it is that the water used on that side, as I mentioned, unless you take the potable water that they would be putting on crops and pump it, which requires another pipeline back to our side of town, the creek is where we lose that water in terms of recharge. Leaving water in the lower aquifer on the other side of the creek doesn't really benefit the aquifer on this side of the creek.
Okay. But it's counted against our our decisions on what's happened in the urban area.
Well, there was a requirement in the wastewater permit years ago that said that we had to dedicate 10% of the reclaimed water to ag reuse. And I think that's where the issue comes in, is that reuse is not the same as exchange. Exchange means you got to pump that water back this way. And those pipelines get expensive for the amount of water. And plus, apparently there's hesitation to take the reclaimed water. It's not the quality of the potable water that they pump.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions from the council for Chuck on the BMC?
I think Jeff has a question.
So no more questions from the council. Go to the community. Jeff, thank you for waiting patiently. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Edwards, and I too attended the Basin Management Committee and had a couple of observations. The transient model that is now being used to replace the steady state model has made assumptions like any model. And one of the assumptions that the transient model has made, and I've raised the issue, and I think it needs further consideration, and that is the assumption that the water demand in the urban area will go up by almost 300 acre feet up to build out. And I think that could be overstated, especially in light of the county's existing policy regarding water. And that's a water neutral policy. So any development that is to proceed in the urban area needs to conserve 2 times the amount of water that it's intending to use. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that Title 19 program. So we use about 1,000 acre feet in the urban area right now between the purveyors and some rural property owners. So I think we're going to be hovering very close to that 1,000 acre feet of total over time. So I think that's something again to look into. And then with regard to the projects that we intend to deploy in the foreseeable future, Chuck mentioned the Intertie project, and there's also a third program C well that is to be constructed. Most of you have heard about the program C number 2 well that the CSD is developing and should be online soon. But there's a third program C well that is scheduled again to conform to the concept of shifting pumping from west to east. And indeed, a third program C well would allow a couple wells. The Palisades well, which is a CSD well, that's continuing to be pumped, and that's virtually on the sea level edge. So we need to take some west wells offline and establish again this third program seawell. And then just to conclude, I would note that in the context of this recycled water study, what do we do with the treated effluent? Perhaps the most important question we have that we're facing now with regard to the treated wastewater is what are we going to do with the Broderson site? Because the Broderson site has been receiving 80+% of our wastewater continuously for the last 10 years, and its effectiveness is in question. So do we need to make some changes at the Broderson site in how we discharge the water there? Or do we need to rethink the Broderson site altogether? That's become a central question. Thank you.
Jeff,
All good points.
any other comments or questions from the community? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the Chamber of Commerce report. Jim?
Please excuse my lack of a picture. I don't know what happened. I can't really get it working. I want to report that the chamber is within a week or so of closing a deal to have an office. The place we're looking at is on Los Valley Road, behind Steve Oslander's office there. But the papers aren't in place yet, but we hope to have that office going on that first full week in August, starting on a Tuesday. So that's big news for the chamber. It's a big step forward. Also report that the Passports of Flavor, Festival of Flavor activities ongoing and getting good reports from the community. Well, that's some nice activities going on. That's it. Thanks.
Is that it, Jim?
Yeah, thanks.
Any questions for Jim on chamber? John? You're muted, John.
Jim, what difference, how do you hope to use that new office to carry on the work of the chamber? Would it be staffed, or would you use it for
It'll be
meetings?
staffed with volunteers, and we're looking at 3 days a week, probably 10 to 2.
Yeah,
But depending on volunteers, we may be able to offer additional time, possibly sometime on the weekend occasionally. So
great.
volunteers will be the staff behind it. But most of the staff members are coming from our board, stepping up to cover some of the first openings.
And I'm sure if you're driving by, it'll be easy to notice that you can get chamber information there.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that would be the intention.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions from the public for chamber? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is public comment for items not on the agenda. Does anybody wish to make a public comment on something that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 7 on our agenda. Now was a presentation by Tina Metzger. Tina is actually not going to be doing a presentation. We just found that out 2 days ago. What Tina was going to do was she was looking to try to get the county to adopt an emergency ordinance to put a moratorium on building battery storage plants in San Luis Obispo County. She was going to approach all the community advisory committees in the county and get letters of support. She had already gotten a letter of support from the Cayucas Community Advisory Committee. However, after meeting with Supervisor Paulding, and Supervisor Paulding has a battery storage plant in his jurisdiction in Napomo, County Council let them know that the Community Energy Commission, or the California Energy Commission, actually can override county ordinances that prohibit battery storage based upon a public convenience and necessity. And so even if the county did pass an urgency ordinance, it would not stop a power plant from being built here in the county if the California Energy Commission approved it. So with that being said, there really is no point in moving forward with an emergency ordinance. However, she did point out that Don Addis, our assembly member, is introducing AB 303, which would close that loophole, and AB 303 would allow for it would allow that the would not stop the authority of the CEC to override county ordinance. Basically, county ordinance would take precedence over the CEC. That bill is not enacted yet, but making its way through. Just wanted to point that out. So that's all I have on that. Andrea, did you have a question?
Yeah, and again, I apologize for the camera. By the next month, I'm sure I'll have this figured out. I'm sorry that Ms. Metzger isn't going to pursue that, only because I think even if the ordinance wasn't a fail-safe or prohibited, it would still send the message to the California Energy Commission that these communities, our communities, are not interested in this type of plant. So I understand the issue fully, but I think it's still important to show, have community support for those types of things. Just a comment. Thanks, Jim.
No, and the issue is that to do that, she needs the board of supervisors to support the ordinance and introduce the ordinance. And there's not that support now because county council is not advising that ordinance go forward. Any other questions on that? Okay, moving on to our consent agenda items. This is something that went to land use, was approved to move on to consent. It's basically two homeowners on Doris Avenue and Cuesta by the Sea. Mr. Zimmerman is here. Thank you, Brian, for sitting through the first part of this meeting. And we wanted to approve the splitting of the lot between the two houses. They both own the lot and they're splitting it, and so half the lot will go to one property and half the lot will go to the other property. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to I'll entertain a motion to approve
Let's do that motion, Jim. I move to approve the consent agenda item.
Thank you, Jim. And do I have a second for that motion? John, thank you. I have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Mr. Zimmerman, you have our approval. We'll let the county know that we have no objection to the splitting of the lot.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with that. Now comes the part where you have to deal with planning on that. So
I have been, and that's continuing. So yeah, it's all new to me, but it's part of the process. So thanks again.
You're welcome.
He sounds pretty calm.
I'm sorry.
He sounds pretty calm.
It'll work.
Actually, Mason, I got a quick question for you. Is it because it's the coastal zone that it came to us and it has to go through permitting process?
Yeah, so thanks, Mr. Salio. The current application, I actually have this question for the project manager. I didn't intake the project, and I typically don't do subdivisions, so I had kind of a similar question. The current application as it's proposed is for, I believe it's for a parcel map, right? So traditionally a map creates parcels, so it'd be 2 to 3. that is always a discretionary process, which is why it's referred to LOCAC, and then it will move through the appropriate hearing body. A lot line adjustments, I think the lesser step would be then a lot line adjustment. And to your point as well, a lot line adjustment in coastal always also is discretionary. So it would also be referred to LOCAC, where that's not always the case inland. Something like this traditionally would be a merger, because we're merging two properties and getting rid of a parcel rather than creating one.
Right.
So if we had that question, I don't have the answer. It's something we're exploring internally, but in order to not let the project lapse during the referral process as required by CEQA, we still refer out as a caution.
Thank you, Basin. Thank you for that explanation.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Mason.
Okay, then moving on to committee reports. Jim Stanfield, Treasurer's Report.
Yes, we have a balance beginning on the 1st of June at $1,519.40. Our expenditures for the month, which include payments for our post office box, about $293, plus our PayPal for our Zoom and web, $39.17. And our total expenditures of $332.17. And then we had income of interest for 11 cents. So our ending balance as of June 30th was $1,187.34.
Thank you. Can somebody help me out? Do we approve the Treasurer's Report?
Just accept is normally what you do.
We just receive it?
Yeah, just move to accept. And I would so move that we accept it.
Do I have a second? John, first and second, any discussion on the Treasurer's Report? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, Treasurer's Report is accepted. Committee report, land use, nothing to report. Molly, anything to report on land use? No?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Andrea, trees and landscaping?
Yeah, just briefly, we met last week, had a great meeting as usual. We are still working to get permission from the county to plant the little strip between Los Osos Valley Road and the community park. It's been used as a staging site during the purple pipe installation. So it's an approved project through both through LOCAC. So we're looking forward to that. The trees that we planted along Los Osos Valley Road west of the community park are now topping their little containers. So if you go by there, you'll see that they're popping out the top, which is great. And we're looking at replacing a few of the trees that were planted at the post office that are just not thriving. So that's kind of what we're doing. John, I always like to turn it over to you for any further comments.
No, thank you. I've gotten you advised them of everything we're working on. We're still excited about planting trees in Los Osos.
Yeah.
Okay. And Deborah has nothing for the Active Transportation Committee. So we have no business items listed on the agenda. So that brings us to, are we ready to adjourn? Anybody, anything else they need to add or say from the council?
I move we adjourn.
Okay, then I will adjourn the meeting at 7:14 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for attending the meeting.
Thank you for your
Jim,
service.
good job.
Everyone, thanks, Jim.